Hey there, welcome back to Ask Amy. I have a question today from Sue. So, Sue says, I recently started listening to your course on intrusive thoughts, and in one session, you made reference to schizophrenia. I wondered if you could say a bit more about these so called serious psychiatric disorders and this understanding. Many years ago, I was labeled as having bipolar. I've had many psychiatric admissions in my life, none for the past 18 years, though, but I struggle to grasp this understanding. Does a psychiatric label make it harder to see this? And most importantly, I suppose, is there hope? If this is something you've already covered, could you point me in the right direction? So I love, Sue, that I love what occurs to you to point out in this. So yes, you had this label at one point. Um, you've had times in your life, it sounds like long ago especially, where perhaps the label felt like it described your thoughts and feelings and behaviors, and that makes sense, right? I mean, they didn't pluck the label out of nowhere. Some stuff was observed moving through you. And I say moving through you because that's how it looks to me, like experience, what experience does, what our psychology does. It moves through us. It is habitual often. It has certain flavors that it maybe favors in some of us rather than in others. So for you, at least at one point in your life, it favored this flavor that kind of fit this label of bipolar. It was consistent with that sometimes, right? Enough so to have you meet the criteria for that label, which isn't tough, but also enough so that you've had some admissions around this, right? So it was a thing at one point, and for 18 years now, it sounds like it just hasn't been a thing in that same way. That alone, I mean, man, that alone is huge. And we are so taught to dismiss that. We are so taught, and I don't mean this like anyone's doing us wrong intentionally, it's just the prevailing paradigm. We are so taught to hang on a label that was given to you a long, long, long time ago that described your behaviors, perhaps most of the time or some of the time, a long time ago. We're taught to hold on to that label as if it means something really meaningful and personal about us, and to almost, you know, explain away or dismiss all the times they go against that label. And it sounds like what you're saying is a big part of the past 18 years. Your experience has not been bipolar, at least not to the extent of being hospitalized, right? And whether it has or hasn't, there are many, many times when you don't experience yourself as that, when you're just here in life and you're just feeling what you're feeling. And it would take a judgment call. It would take a human mind to say, "Oh, you're a little too hyper, or you're a little too depressed right now. We're going to get put this label on you." It's all a judgment call. We can all feel depressed, we can all feel manic, and with a label, it starts to take on this whole other experience. It starts to feel like this whole other thing that we all know. This is what labels do, right? They kind of box us in and they limit us. And now it's not just, oh, I'm feeling down or I'm feeling really, really up. Now it's my bipolar back, and then everything kind of follows from that. So I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know for everyone, but I just think it's so huge to just continue to take a look at what labels do in this way and how they create the experience in many ways that they're supposedly just labeling. Like they're kind of sold to us as if they're just, oh, we're just describing what's naturally there. Well, yeah, but they take this turn, and as soon as we have a label, we start looking for evidence for it, ignoring evidence against it, ignoring what doesn't fit the label, and before we know it, we start to feel like this thing. So your question is, you say you kind of struggle to really get a feel for this understanding, and you wonder if your label, or maybe the bipolar tendencies or whatever those tendencies are, if they can get in the way of seeing this. And there's a couple ways to look at this. I mean, one, I don't know. And I don't think anyone knows. Like there is no one thing or set of qualities or set of anything that I can see that says, oh, this person's going to struggle to have a deeper understanding of life because of these things. Like, I just don't think it works that way. And in part because these things, whatever they might be, a tendency to be a little more depressed or a little more manic, or a tendency to be in your head a little more, or to be caught up in experience. I don't know what they might be, but if they were things like that, those things again are fluid. Those are things that sometimes they appear to describe a person named Sue, and other times they don't at all. Other times they don't fit at all. They just have nothing to do with you. And again, that is true for all of us, for all of our labels. So, so no, in that regard, no. Like, I think these tendencies, they don't necessarily get in the way. I can't see how they really do. But what I think happens is we think they do. So we might say, oh, well, and I hear this one a lot, like, oh, I'm ADHD. I can't focus very well, so I don't think I'm going to get this. When you start talking, my mind goes somewhere else, and I don't really feel into what you're talking about because my mind is very busy. Now, again, yeah, there might be something to a mind being really busy that makes it a little harder in a moment to feel into this and hear it. But on a bigger scale, everybody's mind gets busy. And all of us have trouble hearing and feeling this at times. And everybody's mind gets quiet. And all of us just naturally realize that this, what we know already beyond our mind. So we things in this understanding resonate with us naturally, and that has nothing to do with you or qualities of you or any of that. So I think what can happen though is people can say, oh, well, I'm bipolar or I'm ADHD, and that label feels very sticky and very personal to them, and that keeps their mind busy. That has a way, just that belief in a label has a way of keeping them like, oh, that's not for me. I'll probably never get this. I'm different. That has a way of keeping their mind busy in a way to where they can't, or they just don't, not that they can't, but they don't hear more. So I hope that distinction makes sense. What I want to say to you, Sue, is I don't think this has anything to do with it. I think that the fact that you have this bipolar label from years ago, I don't think that has anything at all to do with what you're able to see or feel or sense from this understanding, because this isn't about your mind anyway. It's not about your mind anyway. It's from a deeper place. So I think you are as likely to see things and feel at peace and have insights as anyone on earth, 100%. But if you believe you aren't, you might not as much. Doesn't mean you can't. It just means you might not as much. So don't believe that, because I don't believe it for you. I hope you don't believe it for yourself. Again, this understanding and getting a feel for it has nothing to do with our intellect. It has nothing to do with our attention. It has nothing to do with where our mind is. It's from deeper than that. And I've seen people with very busy minds, very caught up, very overwhelmed with feeling and emotion, that have a sense of the truth coming through, and so there's just no rules around it in that way. So I hope that's helpful. I don't think it makes it harder at all for you to see. And what I love, again, and what you shared, is that it's been a long time since this has been a big enough problem, at least. Again, I don't know all your details, but you haven't been hospitalized for this or treated for this and admitted for this in a long time. So hold that label so loosely. I'd say don't hold it at all. Just be Sue. Just be yourself. Just know, hey, life moves through you the way it moves through you. It moves through me the way it moves through me. Comparing and calling labels and names and categorizing and all of that, it's just not necessary. And all humans want the same thing. We all want just peace of mind. And that feels different for every one of us. We just want to feel a little bit closer to home, a little bit better. And if you've had moments of peace and love and connection in the past 18 years or ever, and I know you have, then you're just like all the rest of us. I want that. Everybody wants that. That's what we're all going for. And any diagnosis, anything like this, it doesn't stop that. It doesn't change that, and it can't really get in the way of it, because it's coming from a deeper plane. It's not coming from our mind. So thank you so much for sending your question, Sue. I really hope it's helpful. I hope it's helpful to others, and it's not just about bipolar or any other specific label. It's helpful across the board. So Thanks, everyone. And I'll see you back here next week. Bye, everyone. Have a great week.